Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals. Get a sip of my water first, get my radio voice going. All right, your muscles, in other words, your biceps, cannot count. They cannot do basic math. They can't take a derivative, so they can't pass calculus. They have no idea how much weight is on the barbell or dumbbell or machine. They have no idea how many reps you did. I know people say, but what about progressive overload? Progressive overload is for your brain. Am I saying that progression doesn't matter? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that training stimulus and hard sets where upper threshold motor units are recruited and your highest threshold muscle fibers are fatigued is where we make gains from. Now, why does that matter for progressive overload? Because you'll stop making gains if you don't challenge the muscles. And it really is that simple. When this comes up, I get this because I have clients who say, well, coach, I'm noticing on these, should I try to push my reps harder on this accessory movement? And I'm like, I told you to go to 1 rep in reserve, or I told you to go to 0 reps in reserve. That's what's on your training thing. What do you mean? Like, well, I haven't really done more than 10 reps. And I'm like, that's not what I have written. Because it's not about the progress that you make there. It's about, are we doing hard enough sets? If you're gaining muscle and you are training hard, you will gain reps no matter what. Or you will be able to put more weight on the bar for the same reps. That is what is going to happen. And too many people get caught up in this. And I see coaches who say this all the time when they're saying, well, you know, if you want to do progressive overload, it might be easier to do this or to do that. They'll do things like, you know, gaining 1 more rep when you're an advanced lifter to go from 6 to 7 reps is a lot. Yeah. And does that mean you're not getting stimulus with 6 reps? Okay, so if, let's say, whatever exercise you're doing 315 pounds, I don't care what the lift is, deadlift, a barbell curl, whatever, and you're doing it strict and you can only get 6 reps, does it matter that it takes you 3 years to get to 7? I mean, I'm asking that as a serious question. Does anyone think it matters? Think your biceps or your hamstrings know that you did 6 reps? No. They only know how much work they're being subjected to. They only know, did this muscle fiber get recruited and fatigued or did it not? That's it. That's what they take from the set. Our brains take a lot from it. You know, so they'll say things like, well, maybe you could go from 315 to 317 and a half to get 6. But do you think that that's really more stimulus? I mean, if it's 0 reps in reserve, is it really more stimulus? I'm going to say no. Your muscles probably are not noticing that extra small increment. We are so close to failure anyways, they don't care. It's not going to matter practically. We are doing that, and when a coach tells you to do that, he's doing that for your psychological effect. Okay? Because you're going to progress no matter what as you gain muscle. And again, people say, well, are you saying it doesn't matter? No, I'm saying progressive overload matters. Because let's put it this way. Let's say we need to get within 5 reps of failure to stimulate good growth, particularly when you start getting more advanced. Okay. And let's say you're doing 3 sets of 10 and you gain so much muscle that you could do 15 if you really had to. But you keep doing 3 sets of 10 with that weight. Well, you're not going to grow. Is it because you didn't try to progressively overload? Sure, but it's also because you quit doing hard sets. So it works both ways. It gets really easy. If you can do 15 reps with a weight and you stop at 10, it's really easy. You're not challenging the muscles anymore. You know, but people will come up with this nonsense to get progressive overload. And I'm like, progressive overload should be, are you working the muscle through the effective range of motion that you want? Are you doing challenging sets? Good. So if you're doing challenging sets and you're either hitting failure or you're hitting a grindy, slow rep, what is going to happen? You're going to stimulate really good muscle growth on that set. So if you leave the same weight on there, you're eventually going to get more reps. Or when those start to get easy, if you add a little more weight, guess what? They're going to get really hard again. But it's not the progressive overload itself is the big deal. It's the fact that you're continuing to work harder. But here's the problem. When we do this, people start doing stupid stuff because they don't understand the progressive overload is evidence that you worked hard, and therefore you have to progressively overload to continue to challenge the muscles. But people get this idea that they can force the progressive overload. And this comes from the novice programming, and I get that, and I'll explain that in a minute. But people start doing stupid stuff. Well, so that I can make sure that I subject the muscles to more reps or more weight, I'm going to start doing cheat reps. I'm going to have a spotter help me touch the bottom or touch my elbows. Yeah, you're just wasting your time now. You are not getting a training response from that anymore. Particularly if you are cheating the ranges of motion with the most tension on the muscle. Example, you're doing dumbbell presses and you start seated dumbbell presses, which there's a reason I don't like that. It's really easy for people to shortchange their reps. It's really easy to say, well, I just can't go lower, so then it gets easier. It's really easy to have a spotter come over and touch your elbows, thus making it nothing but a lockout. Okay, are you trying to work your shoulders or not? Same thing with dumbbell presses. What's literally the only benefit at all we're really getting from a hypertrophy, other than, some of the stuff with the stabilization? But why do we use dumbbells over a barbell? Because for many people, we can get a little deeper stretch. So if you stop going as deep to get more reps, you're just wasting your time. You're not getting any more stimulus. In fact, you're losing stimulus. If you do half reps and you stop 4 inches short of your chest on dumbbells and you go to failure, you will get less stimulus than if you'd gone all the way down with a slightly lighter weight and went to failure. Why? Better lengthened position, better stretch. We're putting the muscles in the greatest mechanical disadvantage, the pectorals. If the spotter touches your elbows on every rep at the bottom so that you can use a heavier weight, you have reduced your training response on that set. They're hurting you. They're hurting your gains. So people start doing dumb stuff because they're not understanding the progressive overload is a side effect and a requirement as we get bigger. It's not achieve more weight or more reps through any means necessary. You're not necessarily stimulating anything by doing that. And people get this idea because of novice programming. We make novices add weight to the bar every week. Why? Because let's be honest, people who are new to the gym, 95% of novice lifters in the gym are lazy pussies. Flat out. They think they train hard. They don't. Dude, their sets are easy. And if you don't force them to add weight all the time, they won't ever do challenging sets. That is how you force them to do it. That's why. Because before long, their squats will have 7 reps in reserve. Right? That weight they're doing for 5s would really turn into a 12 rep max if you leave them to their own devices. Because they haven't learned how to dig deep. They think training hard is difficult, so they don't do it. We have to program them this way. They're also really, really bad at judging how close to failure they are. So we force them to progressively load so that we can actually get challenging sets out of them. And that's where this comes from. But guys, most of the other counting, this is for psychological, this is for our brain, this is for tracking purposes. Your biceps do not know how many reps you did. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.